Truth, logic, action, power. It's the GreggHoush show here on New Revolutionary Radio. From the Leonard School in Malden, Massachusetts, Gregg and company are here to bring a sense of ethics to your news. Whether it's politics, activism, or current events, we always seek to inform and never to deceive. Let's start the show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of the GreggHoush show. Tonight, joining us in studio is a special guest, Nichole Mossalam.
Yep.
Close enough, right? Yeah. And our co-hosts, the wonderful Kayla
Hey,
Avery.
That's me.
Is that how I'm supposed to say that? And Mac Derek.
We got the Mac Daddy. He's the Mac in black. He's the return of the Mac. He's the Kraft macaroni and cheese. He's Mac to the future.
That and we've got Anna in studio for this one tonight.
Hi, everybody.
And tonight we are going to be talking to Nichole and then going over all kinds of fun new news about bonitis and Futurama, basically.
He's the mooch. He's the Scaramucci.
Seriously.
Hey, I'm committing tax fraud as we speak.
Right. So tonight's guest, Nichole here, is Administrative Director of the Malden Islamic Center. Executive Director of the New England Islamic Speakers Bureau, on the advisory board of the Council of American Islamic Relations, and as I've learned tonight, like 30 other things. She
has children.
Yeah, she's
got 15 full-time jobs
right.
and children.
And I believe 3 kids, right?
3 kids, yep.
So this is just confusing to me. One, we're going to have to clear up how you do that. Because
I am a woman of many hats.
That's
how I say it.
So.
And what does your husband do? Does he?
He is also a man of many hats.
I was gonna say, like, how much at home is he like? Is he cleaning the diapers? Is he doing all the dishes?
Yeah, he does. He's
like,
a big help. Yeah, we're equal partners, man.
Yeah, my family.
Good.
My dad was always like, he does the dishes, he does the laundry, so we like to call it like the wife. And I'll say to my mother all the time, like, you got a good wife.
Nice.
He doesn't really think it's funny, but I love it.
Good times. So we reached out to you to ask you to come on the show originally, simply because you were running for the school committee here.
Yes, I am. Ward 7.
And there's a few interesting pieces to that. One, you were involved in some protests at one of the schools here that we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. You would also, according to Google and a bunch of other sources, be the first Muslim elected to city office of any kind here in the city of Malden.
Yes.
And what really confuses me about that is that it is the most diverse city in the state and has held that as statistically true for years. And it blows my mind that you're going to be first. We hope you're going to be first, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd love to talk a little about that. So let's just dive in. I mean, first up, were you planning on running for this, or did you meet, our mutual friend Nadeem here, who's running a PAC that helps, people get elected and helps them decide to run and all that? Or did you go to him? Did he come to you? Like, how did this run for office start?
It was just more one of those magical moments, so to speak, where like everything came together. For several years, I would say people have been encouraging me to run for public office. And I was like, nah. It's muddy, it's murky, like I just don't want to get into it.
You waited to the most muddiest year of all with politics.
I know, right? Yes.
You're like, now that we're slinging mud left and right, I might as well get in it.
I'm like, it can't get any worse, so I might as well just
don't say that. You will jinx it.
Oh, it's gonna get worse.
Knock on wood. There we go. Knock on wood. But no, it just with everything that's going on, and I've worked with Nadeem in the past through some of my previous roles. He's an amazing guy, very charismatic, knows what he's doing. It's time, and it is. We're overdue. It's time to get involved.
Did he convince you for this seat specifically, or just to go for it and you chose this seat?
Just to go for it, and I chose this seat.
All right.
So,
cool.
You're running for school board, right? Malden School Board.
Yes.
What does a school board do?
So the school committee in setting policy. They're in charge of hiring and reviewing. They also set the budget.
So, like, it's an important job.
Yeah.
Being another parent in Malden, I've definitely seen some of your posts on this. I know one of your big things you've been talking about as a policy.
Yes.
How do you put together what your issues are when you're going for school board? Going for a different office, sometimes it feels like it's easier to be like, I'm pro this and anti that, and just check off the boxes.
Yeah, it can definitely be very easy with politics as usual to just go down the checklist, but it's time to start moving away from politics as usual, and it's time to get back in touch with real world issues and real world problems.
Hashtag real world problems.
There you go. And I'm seeing it firsthand. My oldest is 9 years old. He's third grade going into fourth grade. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that in the entire school day, he gets maybe 10 minutes less. That's combined with lunch. So it's definitely detrimental to our children. And I'm not the only parent with that issue. Recently, just last year, the transportation got cut from the school budget. And now they're starting to go from a school choice model to a neighborhood model. Well, not all the schools are equal with each other. They don't have the same curriculum. They don't have the same programs available.
Yeah, actually, I'm super with that. Malden is one of those cities that has this thing where they got money for differentiating the K through 8 school. So the neighborhood where I'm in, the school that's closest to us, is the Performing Arts School, which has a longer. Both of my kids qualified for the advanced program that puts them over in the London. And the idea of switching it back to that neighborhood model means you either have to get rid of this thing where we have a lot of kids who are just lost in learning.
Yeah, at the elementary school level, I don't believe we need to be making children specialize into different categories. Really, it should be all about fun and making learning fun. We're setting habits for the rest of their lives. We're teaching them how to be functioning adults and how to continuously learn, because learning is something you never stop doing. And
so if I could just go back to, you said the transportation got cut for the Malden budget.
Yeah, with no warning, by the way.
So this is like one of those things where I'm like, what? Because I've heard, because the town next to mine did that, so now people have to pay, which is always ridiculous because we pay taxes, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean going forward for, do you now have to pay extra money to, if you want to get your kids bused? Or
no, there is no option for busing.
So busing is not happening, even though it's isn't it state law that transportation has to happen outside of a mile and a half?
Yeah, so technically Malden is in violation of that, because there are still children who are going outside of the 2-mile limit. And the only children who are receiving busing at the moment are ones who have IEPs that require busing. There's no way they can wiggle out of that. But the thing is, how they're trying to say, oh, we're not in violation, is that they're offering to let kids switch to the school that's closest in their neighborhood. Well, we've become a specialized school system, so maybe they're in a special program, or maybe like my son, they're in third grade going into fourth grade. All their friends are at that school. You're messing with their development. You're messing with their education, because now all of a sudden what they're going to is not the same as what they have. My son, one day, our neighbors came over. The parents asked if I could watch the kids. We all sat down to do homework. My son's doing his homework. My neighbor kids are doing their homework. They go to 2 different schools. I'm looking at the homework. My son, his math is literally 1 year ahead of what the other child was learning. There's a huge difference in just even basic curriculum. And you expect me to, take my child out of where they're learning and take them somewhere else where they're not even learning where he's at.
Oh, yeah. And so because I grew up in special education, and I know for the elementary schools, in my district, they always did this thing that doesn't make any sense on just a logical level, is they linked math and English together. So if you tested in a certain way for math, you were automatically grouped in this higher level of English and math.
Oh.
And then if you tested lower in one of the two, you were automatically grouped. So you would have these people, for me, they thought I couldn't read because I was undiagnosed with ADHD until I was in my like early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would do all these tests and they'd be like, she can't read. We'll put her in these like special programs. But then I would be in like programs where there would be people like very like below. Like,
Yeah.
And so I would be like, well, I'm not that level. So why am I here? And then like they tried to bump me up, but it was so above my level that I was like so overwhelmed that I stopped going to class. So there's a lot of like schools like just need to like individualization is great, but they also need to like kind of like tone it down a little bit because there's so much focus on like testing and then like you have to fit this way.
Yeah. This was my son's first experience with the MCAS and everything that they have. And I was completely floored by the amount of testing. And he came home and he told me, Mom, we didn't get recess. We didn't get any breaks. And they were testing for hours, like a full day of testing. And this goes on for a week.
Yeah.
No breaks.
No breaks.
No breaks. Both our kids went through it. You know what? One of the things with our kids
ridiculous.
that I actually, the one thing that I really liked about how they were handling things here in Malden compared to other places I've lived was that, like Anna had said, our kids qualified to, be slightly more advanced in a lot of classes.
Uh-huh.
And, in other districts I've lived in before, including, me when I was growing up, that meant you skipped a grade, you ended up with kids of different ages, different age groups. And for social development, all of that was really problematic.
Yeah.
Here, they have a school basically just set aside for that at Linden, which is, it allows these kids to not skip grades, not, do all that stuff, but it allows them to say, I'm still in third grade, but I'm learning at, what the other schools might have a fifth grade level, but I'm still with kids all my age. Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to hold on to because I think that's really important because it's actually not as bad for the advanced students when they end up in that situation. Where they're at a school that, isn't doing this properly. It's worse for the kids who are falling behind them because it makes them look even, worse than they are. And so I really like this distinction they've done here with that. And I would love that to still be a thing because it's been very important for our kids.
No, I'm a firm believer in an advanced program. Children do need that. You need to have different levels of instruction so that you can keep them grouped together so that they socially develop together. But also, you have to cultivate that adventurous spirit, that willingness to explore and learn new things. And that needs to be part of the curriculum, at all levels.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've learned, especially about, one of our kids is when recess is not available, that's when the unruliness starts.
Yeah.
That's specifically.
That is very, very polite, hon.
It is, but that is the specific trigger that,
so has that
makes
been
him
a
an unhappy
gradual
student.
decrease in Malden schools? Like this recess is like, have they been like, gradually decreasing the time? Or?
It's not just here in Malden.
No,
it's
I'm asking, is that
across
happening?
the US. Yeah. Recess has been slowly getting cut further and further back. I remember when I was a kid, we had at least 3 recesses a day, and they were at least 15 minutes long. And it was needed because by the time, you hit recess, your brain is falling asleep, and you're like, do I have to
especially
sit
for like
another
young
minute?
boys because you need them to like they're almost like dogs. You need them to run around, get tired, pee a little bit, and then go back and sit down. Like you need them to do that.
I know, like even when you're at work in a normal day job, I don't know any adult who can just sit at their desk constantly for the whole day with no breaks.
I get up and take a couple walks. Yeah.
I usually take a nap.
Yeah, I took one today. I took one today, right? She walked in with me.
Yeah, he was snoozing as I walked in.
I woke up about 15 minutes before you got here.
So sorry, back to the transportation. Now I'm confused. So we have specialized schools, and I know Gregg's kids have been there, and which is great. Like, I think that's a terrific idea. So what does that mean going forward for the next budget? Like, if they want to go back to like neighborhood schools, so are all the schools the same now?
That's what we need to have. We don't have that right now. And they want to go back to this neighborhood system, but they still have the system of each school being specialized, and each school has different programs. So this is something that school committee seriously needs to sit down and work closely and collaborate with the superintendent as well as, any other professionals that need to be brought in to say, hey, we need to equalize our system and make sure that all of Malden's children have the same opportunities.
Very much agreed.
Can I jump in real quick on the bus thing? Because we jumped off
If you
of
speak up a little.
Okay, I guess I'm terrible at speaking up. One thing that I think people...
Gotta lean in.
Yeah,
You
I'm
Cheryl
literally eating...
Sandberg it. Really gotta lean in.
So one of the things that people might not know about the Malden school system is Malden is one of the cities in the state that's right on one of the rapid transit lines. So we have a whole lot of MBTA buses.
Mhm.
And one of the deals that the T had was like, oh yeah, we'll definitely be able to help cover some of your school morning traffic. Every time the state tries to cut MBTA routes or increase the fares, that's affecting, our kids' ability to get to school every day. One of the more recent proposals that they basically put out, the most horrible proposal they could to get everybody to agree to rate hikes, would have removed every single bus on my street. And this street has the high school, the largest elementary, K through 8 school in the district, Salem Wood, and Linden School. Like every single bus that could be getting kids to these schools would have been cut, the route entirely gone.
Oh,
So
that's awful. That's like a main artery of the city right there.
Yeah,
I know.
Salem Street. I mean, gone.
Everyone uses that.
Yeah.
So like when we think about these statewide issues, like sometimes some of the biggest impacts are going to be these weird little local issues, and you have to be talking as a community about why this bus route is important, this thoroughfare is important, these schools are important.
That's why it was
Yeah.
so important not to privatize the MBTA, because
Yes.
Cambridge has been going through that for a long time. Where,
Yeah.
like they force the kids to take the bus, but it's like it shouldn't be the public transit should be for like getting to work or like in transit around. Like we shouldn't be letting because they can just stop and not show up,
Yeah.
or they could be late, like. They run on their own schedule. Like kids need to have a guaranteed way of getting to school, and
Yes, they do.
we pay taxes. Like
Here in Massachusetts, we pay a lot more than most people in other states.
well, that's
Yeah.
why we were called Taxachusetts for so long. But I mean, like it's in our taxes already. We're paying for taxes. We're like transportation. Like
They're just not being good stewards with it. And frankly, I want to know where the heck our money is going.
Yeah.
Because
That is a
I
big
have
argument.
seen
Malden's
so
not
many
the first time-
scandals here. It's ridiculous.
That is a big argument that me and Anna
And
have
it's
been
not
having.
the first city. Like Lexington charges families. You have to pay to put your kid on a bus now. They cut it
Yeah.
from the Lexington thing, and now you have to pay.
But the
and-
taxes didn't go down.
No, your property taxes always go up.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
always go up.
So that's that's all well and good, but let's talk election here. I mean, so are you running against anyone?
Yeah, my esteemed opponent is Catherine Bardonaro. She's the current school committee member for Ward 7.
So are your
Why-
issues any different? Are you,
Yeah,
how do
why
you differentiate
not
yourself?
her?
I've done a lot of thinking on this, and really, it's nothing that she's done. The problem is, in today's times, we need somebody who's a fighter, someone who is an activist, who is going to lay it all on the line and fight tooth and nail for our children, especially with the anti-education budget that DeVos has, proposed, and
Yes.
everything else that's going on.
That's what I think of her.
I definitely want activists taking these positions
Yeah.
at this point.
And
People who will fight.
I just happen to know that as a parent, I'm more motivated. I'm a mama bear. Like, don't mess with me. Don't
Yeah.
mess
Right.
with my kids.
Oh my god, I would love to see you on Dance Moms.
Nice.
Like, just don't go there. That's just how I am. You don't mess with my babies. But
Oh,
anyways,
they're the best dancers.
There are a few issues that we do disagree on. She is for the No Child Left Behind Act, which is all part of that high stakes testing issue that we were talking
Yes.
about earlier. And I'm against it.
As you
And
should
it-
be.
And it doesn't make any sense. If a school is struggling and the scores are low, why the heck would you want to be cutting funding from that school? It doesn't make sense. I would be putting more funding in there saying, okay, obviously you're struggling. Let's see what's going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're making sense here, but I mean, the world. It's
So we've gotta-
it's 2017. Nothing makes sense
So
anymore.
that's got to be sold to the people.
I know. Well, that's because there's this mentality of we just don't help people who are struggling anymore. I see it in my role as the administrator at the mosque. I help oversee some of our charity programs, and recently we had what's called a fastathon, and that we invited people from around Malden to sign a pledge to fast for a day like a Muslim, and by them pledging to do so, we were able to raise funds to help pay off student lunch debt. But
That's great.
yeah, I mean, these are great initiatives, but
That's how the Black Panthers
good luck
started.
finding
They started
people.
feeding, like the Black Panthers, when they first got together, they started feeding kids breakfast. They realized that was the number one thing that was hurting students.
Yeah.
They weren't getting food, so they came up with these pantries.
They weren't able to concentrate at school because
yeah,
they were,
so they
hungry.
and it dramatically there was such an increase in productivity in the school systems in New York City and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, when I was growing up, before we took a test at school, you always got the juice and a snack.
Yep.
I mean, it was just common sense, and we've
They
lost.
gave us fluoride every morning.
You were part of that fluoride generation?
I wonder why. If maybe that's why.
Dude.
Maybe I'm they put me in sped school because of that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's all making sense
We
now.
have a relatively large fan base that will believe anything you say about fluoride. So
I just hated I hated the grape flavor. That was I had no problems with it, but I hated the grape flavor. It was gross. Anyway, sorry.
So you brought up your religion.
Uh-huh.
You are Muslim.
Yes.
And, we brought this up a little earlier about you being the first one possibly elected here, and I would love to see that. But while we were researching and trying to figure out, questions to ask you, one of the things that came up, very high in the search results was a Breitbart article about you. And, I feel that's a badge of honor,
Yes,
when
it
Breitbart
is.
comes after you. You've obviously done something right.
I hope so.
I'd love to know a little more about that story other than what we could find online, which is the very basic their side.
Yeah. No,
So what happened? How did you end up in a Breitbart article?
I just don't know because it hit me out of nowhere. But no, the thing is, like I said, I'm a go-getter, and I will actively advocate, for anyone that I see. But the thing is, one of my previous roles, I was the executive director for the Islamic Society of Boston on Prospect Street in Cambridge. And through that role, there was a new initiative that came out of the White House called CVE, Countering Violent Extremism. And I was part of the pilot group here for Boston that helped to write the framework. And as being one of those members, I was invited to the White House as part of the delegation from Boston. I attended the summit. And of course, because, I took time away from my kids, and I was breastfeeding my middle child at that time.
Oh God!
So when I went, oh my goodness, it was very difficult.
Were you just doubled over in back pain when you got to play?
Yep.
It was not an easy trip. I'll put it that
I'm
way.
already feeling the pain. Ouch.
Yes. Because we didn't get many breaks there to, for me to take care of something like that. And so I was
Yep.
like, oh my God, I couldn't wait to get
To
home.
unload.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, to be fair, we all know that Barack Obama is the secret Muslim. So clearly being invited to the White House means that he's an open Muslim now. And
Well, I
they
don't know.
just-
We were still doing the secret handshake. So I think he's still in the closet there. No,
we got to teach you this handshake now.
But
So you're there at the
Again,
White House. You're doing all that.
getting
Breitbart
back
picks
at-
up on this stuff.
yeah, and Breitbart picks up on it. And of course, there is this organization called Americans for Peace and Tolerance.
Whenever anyone says they're for tolerance, you know that's a lie.
The lady doth protest too much.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those, and they've had it in for the ISB for a very long time. And I've had to, counterbalance, if you will, quite a few of their attacks on the Muslim community here in the greater Boston area. They've got frequent flyer models when it comes to Islamophobia. But, getting back.
It's a never-ending plane with them.
I know. It's like, do you ever run out of gas?
Yes.
Or hot air? What are you flying on there?
Seriously. They're vampires. They don't sleep. I don't get it.
Yeah. But yeah, they definitely had they've got a bone to pick somewhere in there. But heaven forbid, that the Muslims, have a say in, issues that are coming from what are perceived to be other Muslims. If you're making policies that you think based on something that you believe represents Islam, you need real Muslims there. You need the people who practice the faith as it's meant to be, day in and day out, who practice charity, who know what compassion is, to be there to counterbalance that mindset.
It's like almost like when you're doing healthcare policy and you're trying to write healthcare for women and only men write it. It's one of those things. Maybe let's have
That's
some
never
women.
happened. That's never.
I know it's never gonna happen. No.
See, the Breitbart must have been ecstatic when that happened because that's their ideal world right there.
Oh
you know?
Yeah.
Just white men in a room together.
There you go.
But so right before the show, you showed me a picture of you and Bitey.
Yes.
Good old Biden.
I love him. Tell me everything about him. let's just go off topic and let's just go into the real stuff.
No, we had a great roundtable discussion.
Did you get his number? Can I have it?
All right. Sorry, Bitey, I gotta give you up.
Nice. When you teach me the secret handshake, just slip the number in with
Okay.
it.
Nice. So that had to be interesting. I mean, did you know? Did you find out about the article right when it happened, or did someone bring it to you and say, "What's this?" Or because I know you were doing a lot of messaging and you were up on that stuff. So the day it came out, were you like, "What the heck?" Or
yeah, and really that article came out with in conjunction with another series of attack ads that were published in the Metro here in the Boston area. And it was basically, this whole lineup where they were trying to portray myself and others of my community as terrorists. And, I'm sorry, if caring about my community and working my butt off to make sure that, we have the best available is a terrorist, then, so be it. But
one of the big complaints I heard in looking at all of this stuff from the right, attacking you specifically, was this idea that you told Muslims who might be getting questioned by the FBI that they should talk to the ACLU first. And that people on the right, I guess, don't believe in talking to a lawyer before you get questioned.
No, let me break this down for you. No, she's a loudmouth, opinionated woman who believes in what she's saying and she cares about others. That's what pissed off the right.
No, honey, she's also brown. It's
Exactly.
very
There you go.
Oh yeah, no, she wears that. She has is it a headscarf?
And I do it while wearing a headscarf.
Yeah,
so therefore, I am directly challenging their narrative. That a Muslim woman belongs in the home and let the men make decisions.
Yeah,
for her.
you're
No.
everything that triggers them because they're tiny little snowflakes and they melt anytime a woman has an opinion.
Right. So, let's talk about that one. There is definitely here in, I guess, even though you're here, the West, this idea that, the Muslim faith is anti-feminism, that you're obviously supposed to be at home with the kids and the man's supposed to be out doing things. And, depending on which level of it they want to think is, actual, Islam, you can go all the way up to, Saudi Arabia there where they aren't even allowed to leave the home without the man's permission, so
Yeah.
where on that scale is more reality here in America for you specifically, is it as anti-feminism as we see, portrayed, especially in the media, if you've ever watched 24 or anything else, I mean, they were really good at portraying the men in control of those relationships.
Yeah.
So how does that really look? What's the truth?
Getting real here for a moment on this topic. I come from a background of abuse. And I was married even before my current marriage. So the husband I have now is my second husband. My first marriage was when I was Catholic. I'm a convert. And for someone of my background, I never realized how oppressive society is to women. And until I started wearing the scarf, of all things, and it was all of a sudden, by wearing the scarf, I took control of my own femininity and I took control of my own body. And Islam, when you look at Islam in and of itself and you look what the Quran teaches and the teachings of our prophet, it empowers women. Women, historically here in the West, women didn't have rights to property. They didn't have rights to custody of their children. In Islam, from the very beginning, a woman had a right to inheritance. Woman had a right to own property. A woman has a right to work, and her income is her income. She has rights to custody of her children. Islam enumerates all of these rights, and it's balanced. So Islam recognizes that men and women, we're not exactly the same. We're not. And that's okay. But we are equal in our quality, and we are equal in status in the eyes of God. And that was a very liberating experience for me. And the difference between the marriage I have now and the one I had before was like night and day. And Islam has really helped me grow as a person. I'm a more confident person. By working in the Muslim community here, I've grown professionally, I've grown personally, I've become a better mother, I've become a better wife. And these are roles that I can embrace without feeling like I'm less. Like these are all facets of myself that enhance me.
I feel like I want to clap, but like
Right? I mean,
but it's not like a live audience, so like it's just be me.
So here, especially in America, a lot of what we get to see is just what the news wants to show us. So we see, of course, we see ISIS, we see Saudi Arabia, we see all these people who portray themselves as Muslim, as followers of the faith. But I think everyone with any brain cells understands that they aren't actually following that faith.
People like that, these cultures comprise less than 1% of the entire Muslim population.
But it's all we see on TV.
Yeah, but there's still
and that's
like 2
the problem.
billion Muslims in the world. If they wanted to destroy the West, we'd be dead already.
Yeah.
You really gotta
Right.
Yeah, you really gotta think to yourself, what exactly is wrong here? What's wrong with this picture? And that 1%, less than 1% of an entire world faith is represented in the media more than 90% of the time.
It is represented as the majority opinion.
Exactly. But it's not.
No.
People like myself, we're the majority.
Yeah, but you're scary. We already talked about this. You threaten people. You make men feel inadequate and emasculated.
Come on.
We can't see this image of Muslims because then we'd be like, oh shit, they're humans.
No.
We can't think that way.
Heaven forbid.
I mean, the media love having an enemy. They love building up contentious relationships, and it really feeds the narrative that they need. It also feeds, of course, many industries, all the way up to the military-industrial complex. They're all fed off of this fear. And I mean, the thing for me is, when I think of the various Muslims I met, and all the followers of the Islamic faith that I know, more than average, they are exactly like you. They are the nicest people. They have their head on straight. They are a fair amount of them activist-minded, trying to help the community, and a lot more, and I'm sorry to say this, than a lot of the other faiths that I could just concentrate on that specific one individually. And it's a completely different view when you just get out and start interacting with, people of the Muslim faith. It's really different than what you see on TV. And I think that's an important thing that, you're not going to get that out of the news. You're not going to get that out of watching movies. You're only going to get that at this point in our society by simply interacting with people.
And that's what studies are showing right now, too, that a person's perception of Islam and Muslims is in direct relation to whether or not they know or have interacted with a Muslim. If they haven't, then they're more likely to have a negative view of Islam and Muslims.
Well, that's how when the school boards, like the Brown versus Board of Education, where they segregation, like the NAACP, the way that they proved that in the Supreme Court is they had all these studies where children, they were shown an image of a white doll versus a black doll, and they said which one's the good child, and they would pick the white kid because that's what they were taught growing up. So they were able to show in front of the Supreme Court, they're like, yeah, this is having a negative effect on children's mindsets. Like, we're teaching them that no matter what, skin color is bad.
Yeah, it's perpetuating a cycle. And, I think one of my most favorite quotes, and I know it's overused, Abraham Lincoln, united we stand, divided we fall. And it's truer now than ever.
Oh, I thought you were going to
because-
say the Mark Twain tweet. Love like you've never been loved. Dance like no one's watching. Sing like no one's listening.
But no, it's true, because if we're all bickering with each other, then we're not paying attention to what they're taking from us. If we're, look what's happening with the healthcare situation. I have seen from friends and family comments on Facebook of, oh, why do I have to pay for someone else's health insurance? I don't know, because
That's how insurance works.
we're decent human beings. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how the
Literally
whole
what the
thing
word
is set
means.
up.
Yeah.
But so that's one thing. But also, like the fight over for a fair wage, the fight for 15. How much are these big corporate CEOs making? And we're gonna begrudge somebody making a livable wage? Like, we're literally fighting over the crumbs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they're stealing the whole cake.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
working for our piece of the pie, except the piece now is just crumbs that they're dropping from their mouths.
So I know you're angry, and I know you're struggling to live every single day. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spoon feed you someone else to hate, to take your mind away from what I'm really doing to you.
Yep.
And that's what's happening. As
That's
long as
capitalism.
people are content to be spoon fed, I have no words. Like,
No,
I just
it's the 2 minutes hate thing. It's
nothing I can say in
1984. It
polite
absolutely is.
society.
The people at the top are giving us, we know you're super angry. Go watch 24, go watch whatever, and go hate on those
Yeah.
scary people over there, because they're the problem, not the people who are actually hurting you.
And what I say is wake up. Wake up. Get involved in your city government. Go to
Hashtag
city
stay
council.
woke.
Yeah. Stay woke. Like, go to your city council meetings, because local is where it's at. Recently, as I've gotten involved in this whole process, I've started I went out of my way to become a delegate to the state platform, the Democratic platform convention
really?
that
Yep.
they had. Yeah, I was a
that's
delegate there, and we passed one of the most progressive platforms in history.
Ranked Choice got on the platform.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I was out there with our revolution,
Yep.
passing out the petitions to get enough signatures to get these amendments to the platform. And it was a lot of work, but it was worth it. And now we got to hold people accountable to that platform. And, you can make a difference. If I can do it with 3 kids working and, God knows whatever else is going on in my life, you can do something. Don't just sit there and complain. Get up and get involved.
So, not to be impersonal, but are you 35 yet?
Very close.
Will you be 35 by 2020?
She's where this is going.
I'll be 35 next year. I'm
Then
34
yes!
now.
We got our candidate.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean, do you hear how passionate she's speaking?
I'm loving it.
I know. I'm getting hot and bothered listening to it.
All right, everybody who's watching or who's listening can't see this. I'm sorry. Everybody who's listening can't see this, but I have seen this look on my husband's face before, and the last couple times I think a regime toppled. So everybody be very careful.
Oh, no.
We've
I
already
think
got
that's
the
pretty
pack.
interesting.
We already got the jetpack.
Yeah. I mean,
And
yeah.
we- and
Let's just get him working on a national level.
Yeah. We'll come up with your slogan. It's going to be better than the one. It's going to be better than what they
She
just put out.
does messaging. I mean,
Yeah, I mean-
we got some help here.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm at this point, I'm willing to help others, but really my heart is with
helping
the kids.
others means becoming president. So
Yeah, if you become president, you can get rid of good old Betsy there and help the kids more.
Oh, tempting.
I
very
know, right?
tempting.
See, I
Yes.
know. I mean,
Ah,
you would get
you
your
know
own
the button to
AG.
push.
We could bring back Biden.
right?
Guys, my future is looking great finally.
I mean, I think I could convince Biden to run with her.
I mean, no, I just want him at the dinner, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he would have to be there.
It's
So,
awesome.
Don't worry. Thank you for running and serving our country. You're going to be a great president.
Nice. Wow.
You can sign
Well,
it
this
tomorrow.
took a left turn.
Oh yeah.
Literally.
Right?
Train went off the rails real quick right
No,
there.
no. We went
I
to
mean,
sixth
do we?
gear.
I mean, that would be. I'm just gonna say this. I mean, having Donald Trump on the right going up against an actual Muslim. I mean, the right would
No,
have.
just an actual human
like-
being.
Well, no, but like
Also
specifically,
true.
they like to call everyone one just in case if they're not white. But like this would be a legitimate one, and then they'd be going at them, and I think that would give us a lot of power to yell at them about their attacks on religion and whatnot, instead of just but he's not.
Oh,
Instead of that, we'd actually have a lot of power to go at them with. It would be interesting.
It would be interesting, but right now I would have to say my heart is with school committee. I gotta.
You got to start somewhere, but
Gotta start
do that
somewhere.
for
No,
a year.
I mean,
and then,
you've got 4 years. Don't or
Yeah,
three
see?
and a half, really. So
no.
Nah.
2 before we really need to be declared and starting the work. You
yeah, I mean, don't worry. Well,
know.
Wait,
Well-
your youngest is 9 months, right? Like you can get that kid potty trained in time.
Yeah, we're good here. We're good
yeah,
here. Let's move on to some current events.
Sure.
We've kind of migrated to the national level already, so let's
Well,
go there.
We're already talking about potty training. So
Yeah,
Well, I mean, just to wrap up,
Is Trump?
so do you have like a website, or is there a way to
Yes.
contact you if you're a Malden resident?
and we'll be putting this all online, spreading it around, all that fun stuff.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, you please go to votenicolemalden.com. And-
Nichole is spelled Nichole.
Yes, and there's an interesting story for that too. My grandparents came here through Ellis Island from Palermo, from Sicilia, and I'm named after my grandfather, Domenico. They called him Nico,
There you go.
so I'm his
I-
namesake.
I love
So it's Vote
grandfathers.
Nichole.
VoteNicoleMalden.com. And we're going to be adding some new information up there on how you can register to vote online now.
Oh, yay!
You don't even have to fill out the form anymore. It's nice and
Nice.
convenient. And then also because, my ward is a very labor heavy ward. Not everybody can make it to the polls most of the time. So we're going to be putting up how to do early voting, how to do absentee
Nice.
ballot.
Actually, funny enough, not funny, haha, but Superior Court, I think it was in Suffolk or Norfolk County, just ruled that being
the 20-day.
Yeah, forcing people to register 20 days prior to election is unconstitutional to the state constitution.
Yep.
So,
So-
yay, that's a
So
win.
now you don't even have a deadline anymore. You can go ahead
Register
and
the
register.
hour
to vote.
before.
They
and
might
then-
be able to put they might say 5 or 7 days before,
Yeah.
but the 20 days was unreasonable.
Yeah.
So
So there you go. VoteNicoleMalden.com.
Get
yay.
out there, vote,
And we will
stay
get this
woke.
spread.
And
We will
then
get
we'll
this
get
link
Vote
on our
Nicole
website.
2020 up in a few months. So we'll see
There
you
you go.
there.
I think
Uh-oh.
Kayla has found her cause.
I did.
I love it. All right. So, since last week, I keep saying this, but I never believe that there's going to be enough that we run into that 2-hour limit again. But then, Bonaeris guy comes out of nowhere, Scaramucci here, the mooch, and
Self-titled.
replaces Spicer, and then doesn't because Huckabee takes that job. And
Well, no, Spicer resigned once he got named because apparently that's the line he draws, not the
Yeah,
lying,
yeah.
not being banned from seeing the Pope as the only Catholic in the White House on the Vatican trip. But no. The mooch. The moochie is where you say hell to the no.
Well, to be fair, it seems like a lot of people in the administration understood just how bad of an idea this was. Because from what we've heard, Priebus, Bannon, and Spicy all were like, no, what are you doing? Stop.
Yeah, I heard something like Reince it was able to delay this his nomination for basically the past 7 months.
So Scaramucci is now the new communications director, and he has said that one of his big jobs is going to be stopping all of the leaks at the White House.
Oh, and we should be said that he actually won't officially start his position until I believe August 15th.
Except, that he's already been there behind.
He just hasn't
Should-
taken the
Yeah.
oath
Should
or
we get him a
divested from his
housewarming
business.
gift, like a big old roll of duct tape?
Yeah, please. That's actually
I
a
was gonna
great
get him,
idea.
I was just gonna get an oil-soaked rag
No.
and send it to him.
See, what you do is you get him a great big basket of just loose glitter, like a gallon of it.
They have glitter bombs. We can send him a glitter bomb.
No, we can't actually glitter bomb him.
Stop saying the word bomb in relation to sending
What
something
if
to the
I'm on a
White
plane
House.
and I'm a bombardier?
Look, I think there's at least one person in this room who has never been accused of being a terrorist. I think we got one.
It's probably Mac.
No, he was
it's
accused.
Derek.
Oh, dude.
I think Derek down there at the end hasn't been accused of being a terrorist yet. He's been accused of many things, but not terrorist.
That is accurate.
That is
Just for the
accurate.
record.
That is
That
accurate,
is accurate,
yes.
yes.
So first thing that happens that, I really paid attention to with Scaramucci was Twitter goes nuts showing images of him next to a character from Futurama. And it is the literal perfect image. I fell in love with this instantly. For people who don't know, there was a character that happened in Futurama and was typical 80s Reaganomics Wall Street guy. And I don't understand how this happened, but Scaramucci is literally that guy. Like there's no difference between the two of them, minus
down to
the made-up
gestures.
disease.
Oh yeah, he's a total caricature of what an Italian mobster from the 80s was
In New York City.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. Like he is basically like a
Even down to
like,
being from Jersey, not New York.
Right.
Yeah, like oh yeah, he's a Jersey wannabe in New York.
Yeah. So now we're a week into this, and he is at war with Reince Priebus, and whose name still blows my mind that's a real name. But
I mean, clearly he was unloved.
Yeah, that was not a child
I
the
would have
parents
punched my
wanted.
parents. I would have.
I would have changed my name. Like he's voluntarily walking around with this name as an adult.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like it takes, I think it's $100 and like a court trip.
So today, Scaramucci went nuts. Went nuts is hard to
yeah,
say.
That's not really
well,
the
in
right
the past
term.
24 hours, I would say he's been going nuts.
Yeah. So I mean,
Well, I think we should start with the thing from a couple days ago where
Sure.
he was announced to Politico in an interview that he was going to fire a staffer regarding leaks. And so Politico ran the story saying that he was going to fire this guy. And then the next morning he's like, so they ran this story about how I was going to fire this guy. I didn't even get a chance to tell him in person. I didn't get to handle it in person
Oh,
and
it
help
said
him
it
find
upset him as a Catholic?
Yeah, he was super upset as a Catholic apparently about how they leaked this story.
How he publicly
They-
told a
they
news outlet.
leaked the story that he told them in
Yeah, that's
public
not a leak.
in an interview.
that's not what that
That's
word
not a
means.
leak.
Hey, look, I was raised
That's a
Catholic.
waterfall.
Being upset about things irrationally is core part of that faith.
Fair point.
So
But-
he goes on from there.
Yes, he then after that's not enough apparently.
It's never enough for the moochie. Hey, you know.
So-
eh.
I mean, on top of a bunch of other things that have happened since he was announced, I think the big one was Politico publishing his financial disclosure forms, which are expressly public,
Yep.
publicly accessible upon
public record,
request.
baby.
Yeah.
Anyone
I think
can
it actually
request them.
says it on the form.
Yeah, on the
even.
top, and
Yeah.
it they're public records after 20, I think it was 20 or 30 days. Was it Politico knew
Yeah.
this, knew
Yep.
that he knew when he filed it, so waited till the day after it was, requested it. The government said, "Well, here you go. It is a public record," and they called him up and said, "Hey, you didn't divest from anything, and this is a blatant conflict of interest. What? Someone's leaking."
So
Yeah,
he goes to Twitter right after that, and he posts, and I quote, "In light of the leak of my financial disclosure info, which is a felony, I will be contacting the FBI and the Justice Department. Swamp at Reince 45." So he says he was just tagging Reince so he would see it and know that this was happening. A lot of other people suspect that he was tagging it saying that guy's leaking. Either way, he deleted the tweet very quickly for many reasons. One of them being that it's not a felony, that they did nothing wrong.
Also, it's not a leak. You can't leak public information. The
Yeah.
fact that like this White House is like obsessed with leaking, whether it's two prostitutes on a bed or it's like public documents, they just want to say the word leak. You know, and then Sean Hannity won't shut up. You know, that's the dossier. Remember the dossier, you know, with the prostitutes and the peeing on a bed, the dossier. He says that like in his opening monologue every fucking day now. Ugh.
Well, the dossier is also still a bit interesting in that everything that's come to light about the meeting between Don Jr. and the lawyer,
but like the fact that like Sean Hannity keeps being like,
starts
remember
to
that
add
one
to
with the
dossier
prostitutes?
being truer and truer, because so far everything we've learned since this supposedly made up dossier came out has only added to, oh, well, the dossier said that happened, and now we know it did. And it just keeps getting more and more true as we go.
One or two details from the dossier that have been expressly disproven, and everything else has either been verified or we don't know.
Yeah.
We're working our way up to the pee-pee tape. That's all. Like, I mean, if one of these leaks could be a leak about the leak, I would like to see that.
See, this is why being a school committee member is so important, because education.
Yeah, you could teach them about what is leaking, what's peeing, like
But we
what's
won't
public
end up with
information.
any more morons in the presidency. At least that's the hope.
Hashtag
Please.
Nichole 2020.
Yes. So
to go
now we
back
get
to
to
school.
watch this guy. And what was the other one? The other one that he said when he went nuts
he said
today?
that they were so felonious and treasonous.
There was the interview with the call that he gave to
CNN. Right?
Chris Liza, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And just it was such an insane call that he ended up Ryan Liza, sorry. He just ended up writing his article about this insane conversation where Scaramucci called him up out of nowhere to like yell about everyone.
Oh, he also threatened to murder everybody.
Yes, he was going to murder all the leakers. There was I mean, I can't even cover, like, if I said like 2 or 3 of the things, I'd be here all night just going through all of the insane things.
No, everyone needs to read this New Yorker article for
If
themselves.
you said it, we'd get an X rating on explicit on iTunes
but he
for
also
that one.
said that like the leaking of his financial disclosure was so treasonous that had this been 150 years ago, people would be hung.
And of course, that he's not Steve Bannon because he's not trying to suck his own dick. That is actually a thing he said.
He said that.
But the way he
his
talks,
words.
no, the way
That
he
was
talks,
not a visual I needed.
Yeah,
No.
Not a visual anyone
no
needed.
man walks around with that slicked back hair and that like that collar and those hand gestures and doesn't try to suck his own dick every night.
That is a good point.
Well then.
There's no way that is not true.
Sure. There you go. So that's our new communications
class, left
director
to join.
right there. That's who
There
Trump
you
hired.
go.
That's our guy. That's
I mean,
absolutely
the
wonderful.
communications is on fleek. That's what I'll have to say.
So now we get healthcare again as
Or do we not?
always.
Or
This
do
is
we
not?
yeah, or do we not? So they keep cutting it down and keep cutting it down, trying to get something to pass. Maybe we'll just repeal, and nothing is passing. And so now we're getting the skinny.
Justin, right? Because right before we started recording, and who knows what's going to happen by the end of this tomorrow morning. But the Senate Republicans demanded that if to vote on the skinny repeal, they needed assurance, basically a guarantee from the House that they would take up conference. And about 13 minutes ago, CNN reports Speaker Ryan responds to demands from key GOP senators saying the House is willing to take skinny healthcare repeal to conference committee.
That is not binding in any way, shape, or form.
No,
They can-
but if they didn't guarantee this conference, they were going to scuttle.
Oh, yeah, it was
they were
dead
gonna,
on
they were-
arrival.
It was dead from that speak. So that's spaghetti Paul Ryan, because he's got no bones, and he's basically saying, yeah, we'll do whatever you want. Trump still love me. So because he's such
a group of governors came together, 5 Democrat, 5 Republican, to put out a public statement stating that the Senate needed to reject the skinny repeal. and
every health insurance, pretty much.
every health insurance and every patient's group and just all of them. There's literally no one but these senators who seem to want this.
And
even not most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even not even all the Republican ones.
They had a lunch
There's a
today, and like
bunch that
basically
don't.
at least 5 of them was like, we don't want this to become law.
Well, I think it was like 5 that said that they would vote for it only if the House agreed to a conference.
Yeah,
and
only
then
if
there
they-
were more that just didn't want it at all, as far as I know.
Ugh. But the whole thing has been a garbage fire. I've been watching it, like all the basically the debates on the House, like the Senate floor this past few days on C-SPAN, because guess what? You know, who's going to be 30 and just watches C-SPAN? Not this weirdo. And it's mind-boggling that some of these senators, these Republicans, can get up and say what like the vomit they're saying. Like Mike Enzi got up there and was like, you know, in 2010, the Senate Democrats shoved this through and passed this within a week. And I'm like, you were part of the gang of 6, you fucking asshole. You were the one who spent months drafting the ACA before you decided to go tell it to fuck off, and then forced the Senate Dems to pass it through reconciliation after it passed the House twice. And
Yeah.
he's going to sit there and say they did it in less than a week. And like,
That was a huge, long process. I don't get where they're coming up with this
Well,
1
they're
week
just
time
lying.
frame.
They're just outright lying. It's-
and they're like,
'Cause their base-
Alternative facts,
their base
baby.
will
Yeah.
believe them, and it's
they,
horrible.
and they live in this alternative fact world, and it's almost like
They got one thing that this time, though, that this is the first time that they've introduced a new version of any of these bills where the CBO score said slightly less people would lose insurance. Now
Yeah,
it's
it's
down
only
to 16 million.
60 million
More
Next
than
year.
current.
current,
Yeah.
next year, more than current, and an automatic 20% premium increase.
Yeah,
I
so,
think
It's
this-
ridiculous.
but they keep telling everyone that they want to bring your premiums down. A 20% increase
And I
is
think
not
this is
bringing
this
your
is the
premiums
first
down.
one that they said that there was going to be an immediate 20%. Like
Yeah.
like the moment they pass it, it
Yeah.
will spike 20%.
I mean, I just want to point out for anyone that isn't aware, when they say they're going to bring your premiums down, what they really mean in this particular case is that if they somehow find a way that will do it, what they really mean is they're going to get you insurance policies that don't cover anything and have enormous deductibles.
Also, they really
Yeah.
don't give a shit if the premiums go down or not. They just want to take it away
Well,
from you.
yeah, it's just political
Yeah.
ammunition.
Yeah,
but-
they're just attempting to take your
But
insurance
also,
away.
can I just say one thing? Fuck John McCain.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was an utter failure. He comes back and just
He
goes
fought-
on a tantrum, yelling and screaming about how you need to stand up for things and how we're not doing anything
He
right,
also
and then he
said-
votes yes.
No, then he
And
said he
falls
was
right in line.
Yep, and he said
like
he wasn't going
everybody
to vote
else.
for the bill as it stood today. And what did he do? He voted for the bill as it stood today, 6 hours after. Not
Amazing.
only
It's like the climactic scene in Braveheart where he's like yelling, "Freedom!" Okay, let's all go home now. Bye.
yeah,
Yeah, like,
or
what
he's
is going
basically
on?
Like, oh, just for me, just for me.
Yeah, just for
For a
me.
minute there, I thought that speech was going to end and he was going to vote no. There was like 1 minute maybe.
But and that's what pisses me off, because everyone's saying oh, it was a great speech. Great. No, it wasn't, because you know why it wasn't a great speech? He voted yes. He could have, because they'd guaranteed him 15 minutes after the vote, no matter what happened with the vote, right? He could have voted no and then given that speech. Then it would have been a great speech.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he voted yes, so no, it's not a great speech.
I mean, we've been told for a long time that John McCain is a maverick, but we finally realized that what they really meant was that he killed people like Goose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know, it's great to rail against, all of these politicians and the horrible stuff that they're doing. But the fact of the matter is we do need to come back to the American public, and that we've been asleep for so long and we've been so content with them saying one thing and doing another. We've never held them accountable. And we have to do that, and it's time.
And I'm really concerned about that too, because it's like right now we've got the majority of the public, right and left, down the middle, do not want this to pass. They want the ACA to stay, and they want it to fix the ACA.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's going to be people on the very far right and the far left saying, I want single payer, I don't want the ACA, or I don't want the ACA at all. But, that's you got 2% on either side. The rest kind of wants the ACA to stay and just fix it,
I mean, even the left doesn't want the ACA to go away until single payer is set up.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so,
It's literally
but-
just the one group.
yeah, but what concerns me is that so they passed this with Mike Pence as a tiebreaker, right? Are we going to hold them? What's going to happen the next day, right? I don't think anything will happen. I think people will be pissed, but I'm not convinced, and I'm not
The American
very
public
hopeful.
will not be angry long enough for it to affect the next round of elections.
They
Especially-
need to get angry.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
my
absolutely.
point.
And-
is grab
Yeah.
your pitchfork, get off.
I thought you were going to say sickle.
I
I was really excited, and I was like, "Oh, I've got it!" And my hammer's in the other room.
I thought Matt
No,
was the resident communist here. What are you
I
doing?
I'm not a
mean-
communist. What are you talking about?
I don't see, it's really sad, but I don't see this affecting the next round of elections. They're going to change the messaging and people are going to fall for it.
What are we going to do next week?
It's like I'm, watching an episode of South Park. Do you want to vote for the douche or do you want to vote for the shit sandwich?
Yeah.
And that's what our democracy has become. And it's time for people get up, get
McConnell should be
angry.
voted out of office, and he's not going to be.
And we,
Vote.
What? Someone just put him in his coffin already. Why is he still alive?
because
He's
turtles
I-
live for a very long time.
I know. But just put him on his back. He'll never be able to get up.
He's truly
that's a good
in tune with the
solution.
spirit animal.
Non-violent.
Put him on his back.
They can't roll back over.
Then he'll just sit there and
He'll be
just like
confused.
and he'll just make weird sounds.
That's basically what he sounds like.
Yep.
So
goodness.
again, we wait. And we wait and find out what they vote on if they pass. But I'll tell you, my personal opinion is that they're going to keep making it skinnier until the only thing they actually pass is going to be a bill that changes the name of the ACA to ACHA, and then they say we won because we changed it.
Yeah, we
So-
got rid of Obamacare.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, so
That's gonna
as
be the thing that passes.
As
Literally
the recording,
changing
they
the
went
name.
in. I think they had about 5 hours left to debate
Yeah.
as we
like
went
that.
into recording. So who knows? I mean, I was for sure convinced that they were going to shove it through last night. I thought they were going to pass this in the final hour of the 9th hour of the middle of the night. Who knows? They might do it tonight. They might
They
wait.
voted it down, thankfully.
Well,
They-
no, but they could have continuously held the debate. They didn't have to recess if they wanted to. So I was convinced they were going to do it last night. They didn't. They broke.
Yeah.
They went to bed. Who knows if they're going to save the last 3 hours for tomorrow morning? We don't know.
Kidding aside, I'm praying it doesn't pass because it would be so detrimental to so many families.
It will just
millions and millions
it
of
will
people
destroy the
off
economy.
of healthcare.
yeah,
It's
It
like
is 1/5 of
lots
the
of
economy.
people.
yeah.
Lots of people would die miserably.
Yeah.
Because
The
of
estimates
this.
are like
I
tens
mean-
of thousands per year.
How can they? I just don't get how they can sleep at night. When
They,
you
they don't
realize
care.
all of the people, all
Yeah.
this blood that's going to be on their hands.
They
all the
literally don't
misery and
care.
the
All they care
suffering.
about is getting reelected. And if they do
And their
this,
next
then
paycheck.
all the people that actually give them money for their elections will keep giving them that money. That's all they care about.
It's insane.
They
It's
they,
like-
they
despicable.
literally get elected to govern, but all they actually do while elected is make sure they get reelected.
Yeah,
I will
It's
never
horrible.
understand it. And as much as I hate all of the the far rights on there, like the Cornyn's, the Grassleys, the Enzies, like I hate them. But I still like my worst enemy. I still think they have a right to healthcare.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they all get healthcare because they get the whole government,
Yeah, they get
You know-
taxpayer funded government.
I mean, I don't like McCain right now, but I hope that he gets the best care that he can get and that he's comfortable. And he should be wanting that for
But even if-
everybody else.
That's all
Yeah.
he can hope for at this point is
And even if
comfortable.
he
I mean, the
didn't have brain
diagnosis is
cancer
less than
before then-
3% of people with what he's got survive more than 15 months.
Yeah.
So he is going to be leaving us soon.
Well, he's also an 80-year-old man. Like he's not going to live
Yeah,
for
either
much,
way.
Yeah.
Like he can't sustain like this type of
Without
work.
this, I could have seen him going another decade. I mean, he would have just been that old guy. You
He
know?
would have been
He
the-
could have been Strom Thurmond 2.0.
No, he
Yeah.
would have been Dick Cheney without a heart, like for like
Right.
with a mechanical one, because
Right.
and that man's still alive.
So-
I don't
Somehow.
understand.
We'll know a lot more about that tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll continue talking about that next week. But I want to end talking about two things. One, Jeff Sessions. So it turns out that our president now is just, a bully.
Well, that's
and
not
that's-
really a revelation, but
That's all he's doing is
now he's bullying his own pics on Twitter.
literally spending his mornings talking trash about Jeff Sessions.
Now, do we know if Sessions is on Twitter?
I think he has a
I don't think
Twitter.
he understands technology.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
like,
He
so,
probably has interns.
There
who
might
do
be
a
an
Twitter for
intern
him.
or a
Yeah,
staffer.
yeah,
I
like,
think
but I
there
mean,
is.
like, does he have anyone young enough to be looking at Twitter? Like, that's the funny part about it. It's like he's attacking him on Twitter. It's like out of all the forums to attack this, like, this ghoulish elf,
Yeah.
I would send smoke signals and use a carrier pigeon to get in touch with him before Twitter.
So Trump is hoping that Sessions quits, it looks like, and is now, according to the Washington Post, discussing the possibility of installing a new attorney general through a recess appointment. And it's literally crazy. Sessions has said outright that he's not quitting, that this has nothing, that's going to stop him. And the message from Huckabee Sanders is that Trump was disappointed, and you can be disappointed in someone, but
And
still
still
want
have
them to continue to
confidence.
do their job. And this is just absolutely crazy. I mean, I don't like anyone involved, but still, like, this public shaming and bullying from the president to the AG is, I mean, screw all these people talking about, parting with tradition. It's just wrong.
Well, so here's my thing, right? So we keep talking about, like, is the president talking about pardons? Is he looking into pardons? Is he trying to fire Mueller? Is he trying to fire Sessions? Are we just fanning the flames here? Because half the times these supposed, like, leaks or these conversations or these inquiries that allegedly Trump is having is not even coming from anyone directly in these conversations. It's like, like the pardons came from, like, these third parties was like, oh, well, I think he, like, overheard that, like, he was, like, talking about this. It's like, and then the news cycles will just take that and then just continue.
Oh, they run with it.
And they run with it, and they bring on, like, the worst people from the White House to, like, talk about this. It's like, Sokolov, where it's like, I think they were talking about him, and, it's like at a time, like, he wasn't even part of, like, he didn't have clearance to, like, see, like, some of the things, and they're asking about, like, pardons, and it's like, you are knowingly asking questions to a person that you already know does not have a direct answer. Why are we continuing
No,
this?
that you have to assume doesn't have a direct answer unless it's this president, because whether he has clearance or not doesn't really stop our president from talking.
No, I know, but stop. But we're it's almost like we're jumping the gun. Like, we hear it, like, someone will.
Oh, right. It's all part of the 24-hour news cycle at this point.
Yeah, and and that's what's getting so frustrating. It's like the fact that it's like the pardon thing that was getting so frustrating because it's like everyone's like, does he have completely
Right, but then he tweeted that he does have complete pardon
after
powers.
we had talked about it for 3
Yeah.
days in the news without having any confirmation that it came, like, Trump even said the words.
Right.
And then he tweets, I have complete pardon power. And then, of course, it's 5 days of, like, let's talk about that tweet. And then no one seems to have fact-checked the Constitution, where it says the president shall pardon, comma, except in cases of impeachment. Guess what? If anything happens to Trump and he goes down, anyone that comes down with him will be part of that impeachment.
Yeah.
It seems to be a pretty clear fact check that no one seemed to have done.
A lot of lawyers I've talked to and heard from several on this. It's not entirely clear how that should be interpreted because it's never really been tested in court. So there isn't any sort of Supreme Court decision saying this is what the meaning of that statement is, and you can parse it multiple different ways.
No, you could pretend to parse it in multiple different ways if you want to try to protect Trump.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. I went back and I read some of the Nixon, in the Jones and, like, something like that. It pretty much anything the Supreme Court has ruled on when it comes to immunity and presidential power and the oversight and their executive privilege only extends to civil cases. It does not leak into criminal matters.
Well, the power to pardon does specifically.
Well,
expressly.
Because
it's against offenses against the United States.
Yeah, but it says except in cases of impeachment. So
right, but
you also
that
can't
means...
impeach yourself, and they've you can't. So you can't, like, if you were a prosecutor or a judge, you wouldn't be able to prosecute. It
is definitely one of the underlining principles of a legal system that no one should be a judge in their own case. And that definitely implies that the power to pardon would not extend to the president pardoning himself.
And there's
But-
one matter. There's one
Right,
matter.
but it
in
implies that. It
Right,
doesn't
it
hard say that
exactly.
in text, so we might run up against this problem soon.
no, but
Especially depending on who happens to be in the Supreme Court at the time.
Enough to get him a five
Yeah.
point win there.
Yeah.
You know,
So, and then, we're talking about all this fun stuff on Twitter, and then today, our president decides that transgender people will no longer be allowed in the military.
Yeah.
And says so on Twitter, completely blindsiding the Department of Defense, who didn't know this was coming. He swears he had long conversations with them. And
he
they
also
say,
called them
what?
my generals. He called them my, not our, mine.
Yeah. So, the argument was made that it was over the medical costs and over military readiness. Those were his 2 points. And, one of the things that I find funny about the medical costs is that, depending on whose math you want to play with, it was going to be between 2.4 million and 8.4 million per year to deal with the various specific transgender needs when it comes to medical costs. And just put that number, the big one even, the 8.4 million, up against the fact that they spent 41.6 million on Viagra alone last year in the military budget.
Or that we're spending over 10 million a month for Trump to visit his own properties.
But isn't there also that $45 billion plane that is unusable?
Yeah.
The,
Oh,
the
sure.
F-35 is a garbage plane.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is a drop in
And
the
unneeded.
bucket. It's a drop in the bucket, and he's
This
And-
is literally a rounding error when it comes to the military budget.
And
This is
also,
like nothing.
That
Yeah.
number probably had more to do with like the medicines they need to take. They probably were like adjusting for medicine like prescription costs more than anything.
Yeah,
Because
well, I
they,
mean,
said the average price of like reassignment surgery is like something like $100,000. Like there's open heart surgeries more expensive than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that he would do this. And then the argument about military readiness is, no stronger. Sarah Huckabee Sanders says that the president had concluded that allowing transgender people to serve openly erodes military readiness and unit cohesion, and made the decision based on that.
they said that
Insanity.
about women. They've said that about African Americans.
Also,
They've said
one
this-
of the
Everybody.
the SEALs, the Navy SEALs, Team 6 that took down Osama bin Laden. She's a transgendered woman. So I'm sorry,
There you
readiness.
go.
Readiness. What? I'm sorry, bin Laden. Who?
Yeah.
Also,
They might
Rand,
be fit to serve.
Rand Corporation,
Maybe a lot.
the people that do all of our advanced defense research,
Yeah.
did a study in 2016 finding that was actually where the cost numbers came from for dealing with having transgender people in the military. But they also found that there would be little or no impact in unit cohesion, operational effectiveness, or readiness.
They kind of know what they're talking about,
They're
too.
kind of experts.
So there's something that I saw happen, starting yesterday as the story broke, where all of, my liberal friends on my Facebook wall start saying how offended they are by this and how what a jerk Trump is, and oh, my heart hurts for these trans people. And I'm really happy that all these people are paying attention, but at the same time, I was jumping in on all these conversations like, if you are saying this, then you are at least pretending that you actually care about the, protections for trans people in general, and come back down to the local level, because in Massachusetts in 2018, all these public trans protection rights that we just got actually into law are going to be on the ballot. They are trying to take them away from people. Like, I am done forever with any liberal who gets mad about a thing because Trump did it and then doesn't actually do anything to support the people who are hurt by the thing. Like, people getting hurt isn't an excuse for you to go get a bunch of likes. Please go do the actual work.
Yes.
And that law on the books, they stalled that because one of my state rep was one of the sponsors of it.
Mhm.
That's been in the works for years,
Mhm.
and they just passed it, and
And
now
now they're already trying to
and
get
they're
rid of
already
it.
trying to take it away. And it was
Shame
like
on
there was
them.
like a couple of people in the state house that really put the cog in the system and just was refusing to budge on it for no reason. And like my state rep Ken Gordon would try to talk to these people, be like why are you doing this? Like this is logic. This is common sense. What are you doing? And they just
So Freedom Massachusetts is the group that's working to protect transgender rights in our state coming up in 2018. Their website is freedommassachusetts.org. But one of the really good things that came out of today was my state senator, Jason Lewis, posts something about what a jerk Trump is for this thing. And, I go and comment on it because you have to engage, even though, it's going to be interns sitting there. And I'm like, you're going to be there to support them in 2018, right? And he actually responded. He is now on the record on Facebook as saying he's going to, protect transgender people in this state. So, engage with your elected officials. It's super important. And they're not always going to respond, but sometimes they do.
And you won't always like the response that you do get if they do, but it's still important for them to hear you.
I have to say that, the sentence there on the record on Facebook, offends my sensibilities in some way, but
this was
it's
announced
still true.
on Twitter, though.
Yeah.
That's an improvement.
That's the world we live in at this point. That's the world we live in at this point.
He's he can't help himself but live in a reality world too. So he made the first tweet of I have decided that we were no longer, and then waited 10 minutes before announcing it was a transgender ban. He can't help himself but think that he lives in he thinks he's the Truman Show.
He really does.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to link you to, specifically here in Massachusetts, what's going on for 2018, the people working on that. And we're also going to link, there are some national groups that are doing
and the DOJ filed late last
same
night
work.
that gays are no longer protected under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So we know that Jeff Sessions is trying to get back in Trump's good graces.
Well,
Of course.
I mean, their filing is interesting in that the Title VII doesn't really actually expressly protect your sexual
and the
identity.
Constitution didn't expressly say that black people were people. We
but
can add to
for
the
this
law.
but for this law to be added to, we're going to need it to be attacked. We just need the right people in power when it happens,
So
so
that the
it
court
gets
goes.
fixed in the right direction.
I
Because
know
this
is it's coming from despicable people, but it might be a good thing.
It might
And
end up
that-
with the law having it written in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
The DOJ under Obama did say that it did extend, and then because Obama added a whole bunch of things at the last minute, they were allowed to do congressional review and strip a lot of that out.
So there is going to be a lot of links, a lot of us asking you to join in and do things, including for anyone here local to us, supporting Nichole Mossalam. Mossalam. I will one day be able to pronounce that name.
You better get ready for 2020 because you're going to have to say
Right.
it all the time.
I am.
It's okay. He can just say Madam President then.
Madam President, yes.
Not until
yes.
2021, actually.
So definitely support Nichole here locally. And again, we'll get you links to not only her campaign, but all the other stuff we've talked about tonight. And thanks for listening. All right, that's us.
The GreggHoush Show was created by GreggHoush, executive produced by co-host Derek Gowrays, and co-hosted by Kayla Avery. Other contributors include producer and writer Anna Jeffrey, co-host producer David McGuffin, and writer-engineer Robert Tortora. Theme music for this show was produced and recorded by Geneva de Colbert. Our interns include co-host Casey McLaughlin, writer-engineer Alec Greeny, writer Maddie LoCicero, and associate producer, writer, and announcer William Kennedy. You're listening to New Revolutionary Radio, your call to action.